It's a quiet night in Florida. I'm sitting by the fire. We don't sit by the fire to keep warm in Florida. We do it to relax, to think, to talk to each other. It's also not cold out, but I have these long sleeves and pants on because mosquitoes. We're just gonna relax together by this fire. I'm gonna tell you any thoughts that I have that come to mind. I've heard rumors of a white werewolf around these parts. In Florida we have what's called the skunk ape, Myakka skunk ape. I've heard stories of this, aka Bigfoot, I think. They're all cryptids, Mothman, and the like. This is surprisingly nice. Usually in Florida it's way too hot to camp. I remember going camping when I turned 19 with my cousin. He invited me, and just him and I, and we hiked out really far into Myakka State Park. Nothing but palmetto bushes. And I got a 50-pound backpack on. And we finally arrive at our destination. We only know it's our destination because we decided to stop at palmetto bush number 1563. It was very clearly marked with the number. That's a joke. And we sit down, and man, I remember going to sleep that night was the biggest pain in the butt because it was so hot. Man, I really have no idea how Native American Indian tribes people lived here without AC. For real. That's like the hardest part of life. If you had to live without AC. And apparently they do that in Europe, Germany, across the pond. They just don't have AC. It's like, okay, well, if you even have one day a year that is above 75 degrees, then you should definitely have an air conditioner. As far as I know, they don't even have window units, which is just insane. I don't think they can even open their windows. They have like these laws that you can't open your window if you live above like the first floor or some crap. Some shit. Because I have my cowboy hat on, I'm inclined to talk with a southern twang. Not because I actually talk like that, but because I really just can't help it. I'm actually surprised I can sit still this long without moving and getting the skeeters off me. We got a full motherfucking moon. We got this cricket. I think it's just one cricket. I went over and looked for it earlier. And it's just chirping away. You know, it made me think of when I was in like 2nd grade. I remember my teacher telling me that you could check the temperature by however many chirps a cricket makes in 15 seconds. Something like that. And said it's pretty accurate. So I looked it up earlier tonight, and that is in fact a thing. She was not lying to me. I always thought Mrs. Hannah, my preschool teacher, was a damn liar. But she wasn't. You know, my first kiss, I don't usually count this whenever somebody asks me, but my first kiss, I was in preschool. And there was this girl, Kelsey, and her and I used to touch tongues. I don't even know if we kissed. We would literally just stick our tongues out and touch each other's tongues. And then years and years went by. And my first actual kiss was when I was 16. And I dated this girl named Becca. Not the Becca you know. I remember we officially dated for 2 weeks, and the first time we kissed, we were at a park, I think up in Riverview, that's north of here, and I went in to kiss her, or she came in to kiss me. I'm not even sure which one, but we kissed, and I remember thinking while I kissed, this is kissing? Man, this is so weird. This is weird. Because I remember seeing her, and her eyes were like partially open, like almost like she was asleep. You know how when you're sleeping your eyes aren't like totally closed, or some people's aren't? And it was like her eyes were like kind of rolling back in her head, and I was like, what the fuck? What kind of face is this? What are you doing? And then, you know, this is a real kiss, so we're kind of going at it for a little bit. Just sitting on this public park bench at like probably 8 p.m. Kind of dark out. And then maybe a minute or two or three into the kiss, I realized that, oh, wait a second, my eyes are open. I'm just staring at this girl while I'm kissing her. Literally less than an inch from her face. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why this feels weird. So I shut my eyes, and then I actually started to enjoy the kiss. It didn't come with no damn instructions. I remember hearing stories of, like, I think my cousin telling me when he first got married he was a virgin, and his wife was too, and neither of them, you know, they were both virgins. And he said that, like, it took him a long time to figure out what to do. And I'm just like, bro, what are you talking about? How do you not know what to do? You were like 28 years old. Well, I guess everyone has their own timeline. Cool thing about fires is that even if you got nothing to say, it doesn't matter. Nobody's in a rush to talk around a fire. Nobody feels the need to fill the silence around a fire. This is like one of them moving pictures. It's like you talk when you want to around a fire, and you can pause as long as you want. You can look up at the moon, the stars. What I do know is that when it is time for me to go to bed, go to sleep, I can't just say that. I gotta say, well, I'm gonna turn in. Or, well, I'm gonna hit the hay. If I lived back in the 1800s, whenever cowboys were a thing, I'd be a damn good cowboy. You know, would I be a bad guy cowboy? Or a good guy cowboy? Or the sheriff? Might I be the sheriff? I guess it all depends on who my parents were, because the reason I am who I am today is because of how I was raised. And now the same person could have been put in my shoes and raised by the same parents, but ended up a different person. But that's all because of decisions. You can go one way or the other. The same stress can break someone or make someone. The exact same. pressure. You know what I thought about doing? And I'm gonna do it, is record myself talking to myself in a calm, smooth voice, and I'm just gonna tell myself everything that I want to be. You know, it's like those long YouTube videos you put on so you can go to sleep, like this one maybe, depending how long. And I usually play something next to my ear at night. What better than my own voice telling myself how incredible I am, right? I think it's funny because lately I've been telling stories and talking to the camera and sharing my thoughts, and I call it the other side of Ross. And it's funny because it's always been there. So to me it's normal. But I guess I rarely ever showed the world, put that stuff in a video. Because I didn't know how to. I didn't want to preach to people, you know? I didn't want to preach, but I also just didn't know enough about life yet. I always wanted so badly to talk to the camera more when I was doing my vlogs, because whenever I did, I remember the comments would be like, man, that was really awesome, dude, please talk to the camera more. And so I always wanted to, but I never had nothing to say, because I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking preach. I'm not gonna. And that's like the only thing that could come to mind. It's like, oh, I want to share tips with people. And now that's what I'm doing a lot. But there's also a lot of reflecting going on. You know what I'm saying, puppy? I watched that movie, Papillon. First I watched the 1980s version. And I rated it, as I always do. Little known fact, I actually watch and rate tons of movies, or maybe slightly above average, but I actually keep track of it. And then I made a section for notes in my phone where I review movies, because not only do I want to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, I also want to be able to tell somebody why I either liked it or I didn't like it. And I also want to remember, I don't like the idea of spending an hour and a half watching something and then a couple years go by and I couldn't remember anything from it. It's like, man, that was just a genuine waste. I don't remember anything. Now, you naturally remember the good movies or the terrible movies, but I want to remember every movie I watch at least a little bit. So, not every time, but often I will write a review of a movie right after I watch it. Keep it in my little note section. So I rated Puppy on the first one. It's a movie about a prison escape attempt. This guy goes to prison in France. They take him to these islands. One of them is called the Devil's Island. And the rules are, the warden says that if you try to escape once, they throw you in solitary confinement for 2 years. Which apparently breaks most men, being alone that long. I don't know what breaks means, but makes them go crazy somehow. And then if you try to escape again, they put you in confinement for 5 years. And then if you try to escape again, they put you on this separate island called Devil's Island. And what do you know it? The main character gets to experience all that is spoken. All of this. That was a ladybug. And I won't spoil the movie for you, but it's kind of a drag, the older one. I rated it a 5. And then the new one, probably 6 months after I watched the old one, I watched the new one, which was just the other night. And it was less of a drag, more modern feeling, cinema. And that one I didn't remember what I rated the first one, but when I rated the second one, I went back and looked at the first one and I realized that I rated them both the exact same. Which is funny. Right? This is funny. Laugh. I went up to Colorado beginning of this year with a girlfriend. We went snowboarding. Well, actually, let me rephrase. We went to try to snowboard, and she was unable. So I basically just walked down the entire mountain with her, coaching her. Which was actually cool. It was fun. You know, anything is fun when you're with the right people. I swear, you could be in prison with the right people and you would have the time of your life. I know a lot of people like to travel, but I was thinking about that the other day and I'm like, dude, I don't even really want to travel. I like my people here. I was thinking about how some people, Ponce de Leon, the Spanish explorer, spent so much of his life looking for the fountain of youth, or at least that's what we're told. And these other explorers. And the idea, the implication is that they want to live forever, right? Well, anytime I think about immortality, I'm like, I definitely don't want that. I love my life. I'm happy. But I can see how this would get old. Sometimes it feels a little old. Man, the craziest feeling is like, as the years go on, they go by faster and faster and faster. Like when you're young, everything just goes by so slow, so slow. Saying next year is like a lifetime away. That's what it feels like when you're a kid. But as you get older, I feel like I didn't really notice it till I was like 29, 30. But then I just start to notice how life just starts to go by faster. Like, oh, next year, it doesn't seem like too far away. So, you know, maybe I even think about living to like 900, like they did in the Bible, right? Methuselah. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't even want to live that long. Like, even just totally healthy, let alone when you're old and frail. That would suck even more. I know it sounds pessimistic, but it's not. I promise you, I love life. Not sure what's next. Maybe we reincarnate. Maybe we escape the Matrix and we go home, or we go to a different world where there's less suffering. Whatever it is, I'm not going to go straight towards the light. Not at first. I'm going to explore. You know, because I want to astral project. That's when you're laying in bed and you're about to fall asleep, or you're about to wake up, and instead you slip out of your body with your consciousness, and then you can explore the world around you. Am I seeing a great white werewolf? I'm seeing something. Well, I've never done it, but I want to. I want to explore the whole world in an instant, because they say you can travel really fast. My cousin told me one time that he went to the bathroom. I think he was in an argument with his parents, and he looks in the mirror at himself, and suddenly he's like pulled out of his body and just zooms all the way out and goes straight to the fucking moon. And then he like went right back into his body. He's trying to just be cool, trying to tell me cool stories. Well, I believed him. I'm a pretty open person. I remember when I was young, I took this test, like a personality test, but for Christians. And it was like somehow testing you in terms of Christianity. And it's asking me all these questions like, would you go to a ceremony for witchcraft and this kind of thing? And I was like, I might like go and like listen. You know, I'm given answers that are like, kind of like, I'll observe. And then the end of the test come and it was like, you have the worst discernment on the planet. I was like, damn it. But you know, that all stems from that one story I told about seeking to understand before being understood. I think that really, really opened me up as a person, because I realized that I can understand something without accepting it. That's a good story. If you haven't heard it before, you should go to my page and listen to that one. I said it once, I ain't saying it again. You know, as you get older too, everything starts to feel normal around you. Like, things become a little bit less interesting because you've been there and done that. So every now and then, I'll find something that really piques my interest. For example, I started making my own soda. I figured out how to do that. Bought a machine, bought my own flavors. I have this cabinet full of these flavors, all these flavors, probably like 100 flavors. And I would put the sweetener in it. I tried all the different sweeteners, stevia, monk fruit. Those were my two go-tos. And I mean, I would just like obsess over this stuff, dude. Like, that's all I would drink. I would constantly be like tinkering with it. And I would make my sodas so sweet. So sweet. Like at least twice as sweet as the normal sweetness of a soda. Because I'm like, it's 0 calories. Who cares? So one day I made it really sweet, and I went to Venice for some video, and my stomach is killing me. Like, I have the worst, like, gas cramps, or I don't even know what to call it, but my stomach was just in knots as I'm drinking this like potent poison. Oh, what's wrong with my stomach? Oh. And somehow or another, I end up realizing that it's all this stevia. So I was just putting this liquid stevia in it. So much. And so I finally made it home without an accident. And what I learned that day is that I had to switch to monk fruit sweetener. And I continued to drink my Sody Pops just as sweet as before, but with a different sweetener. Now the thing is, when I start to obsess over something, I'm not really concerned, because what happens is I obsess, I learn, I optimize, and then I kind of just forget about it and move on. Unless I see that it's going to benefit my life by continuing. So sometimes I'll catch myself doing really unhealthy things obsessively. And I think, man, this isn't good for me. But then I also think, yeah, but Ross, your obsessions end very quickly. Your obsessions end very quickly. But the feeling, that feeling when I find something that I just really, really am interested in. Like, let me list a couple things, like Call of Duty Zombies. That just like grabbed me for like, you know, at least a couple months at a time. I kept revisiting it. The best I ever got was I beat the Easter egg on Dead of the Night with my cousin. Just him and I. Man, those Easter eggs are tough. So that was one of them. And then I told you about the sodas. That was another. Sometimes I do it with food. Peanut butter and jellies. I would get potato bread, strawberry jam, not preserves, not jelly, jam. Actually, preserves are good too. And then I would put butter on the jelly side of the bread before I put the jelly on. And I'd have, as my cousin Jake would tease me about it and call it peanut butter, butter, and jelly. And I would put a lot of butter on these, plus chocolate milk. And you know what I discovered about chocolate milk? Is that even when you find a good brand of chocolate milk, oh, Promised Land, oh, Dakin Dairy, they're wonderful, but they are not consistent because sometimes the delivery of the chocolate milk will at some point get warm or something, because I can taste that the milk has gone a bit sour when I'm drinking the chocolate milk, no matter what brand I get. I don't taste it with just regular milk, as long as it smells sweet. Actually, I can smell it when it's chocolate milk too. I can smell when it's bad. Oh, that one's bad. But what I opted for instead of buying already made chocolate milk is making Nesquik. And that way, it is consistently amazing. I would make 3, maybe 4 peanut butter and jellies, stack them up on my plate, big, huge glass of chocolate milk, go to my room, watch a movie, rate it, write a review. And I don't post these reviews anywhere, they're just like for my personal use. You know what I was thinking is that I might put these reviews on my website. That might be fun for the few people who want to see them. You know what? I'm gonna hide it behind a paywall. You want to know what Ross thinks? You gotta pay $1,000 a month So anyhow, those are some things that I have obsessed over. You know, and another one that has come up recently is my cousin's old house. Man, I swear these are so random, I know. But I just think back to these moments in my childhood where they were just so meaningful to me at the time. It was the first time I played Donkey Kong Country on Super Nintendo. Probably the first time I played Super Nintendo, period. It was the first time I saw somebody get a wedgie right in front of me. An atomic wedgie. My cousins were giving my other cousin a wedgie, and they pulled his underwear up over his head. And he was one of my best friends at the time, and he's looking at me, and he's crying and screaming, and they're all laughing, and I'm a little kid. They're way bigger than me. I can't do anything. I mean, he must have been 15. And I was probably 12. I remember my other cousin dunking his brother underwater in the pool right in front of me. And it was like he was showing off. And the one being dunked, he's screaming for his life, literally about to drown. And the other cousin is laughing hysterically. And I'm just like there watching. I'm probably 8 years old at the time. Like, what do I do? I think my older cousin is cool, but also my younger cousin, who I also think is cool, is almost dying in front of me. And then this is all at the same house, and then their youngest sister, her and I always got along really well. She was my age, I think 1 year older. Her and I would go on walks and talk for hours, kind of like I'm talking with you right now, but her and I would do this, and she was the first girl, you know, she was the first girl in my life that I really talked to and connected to on that deep of a level. Because I sure as hell didn't do it with my younger sister or my older sister or my mom. Not until at least I was way older. And I remember they had this really, really big pool and a big slide and a diving board. And their house was a U shape. So there was like, you know, the master bed on one side, the living room, and then the playroom, the big playroom. And there was this tiny, tiny wooden door in the playroom. And when you went in the door, it was wooden. Everything was wooden. And it had like this, in order to keep it shut, you just placed a long piece of wood, you know, like a barricade almost. And it kept this door shut. And it was so mysterious to me, even as a kid. It's like, what is that? Why is that there? You know, in hindsight, it was right next to a fireplace, so it was probably where you keep the firewood. I'm just not realizing this. That house was also where my parents dropped me off for, I think it was 2 weeks when I was 12. I think they went on a cruise or something. And I remember being so excited because I got to I was going to be able to spend time with my older cousins who were the coolest people in the world. You know, and they still are, honestly. And it was during that 2 weeks that I was at their house that I made my first video, because they had a 8mm camera, and I was so intrigued by cameras, so I would always play with it. And then I was like, dude, somehow I learned to convert analog to digital video, and I did it on their computer, and I edited the video. I spent the whole week doing flips off everything, and I gave the camera to the youngest sister, Bethany, and I had her record me do all these flips off everything around their house. Or if I went out with them, I'd do flips at the store or whatever. And I remember like going as hard as I could, and I was so sore. My calves, my quads, my butt, everything was, my abs. So sore, but I was so determined to make this video and make it the coolest video you ever saw. I remember my biggest trick at the time was I did a double front flip off their diving board into the pool, and then I ran up a tree and did a backflip. And I didn't know anybody who could do these things, so I was just like, man, I'm the coolest dude in the world. I remember seeing someone do a backflip in that movie called Singing in the Rain. I think he did a flip off a wall. And ever since that moment, I was like, oh my God, I have to do this. I was young. So anyway, those 2 weeks is where I spent all the time doing flips and recording this video, and I had her filming, and I remember getting so upset with her whenever she wouldn't get the shot. And I was really mean to her. And it was the first time that I ever experienced being mean to someone that I liked. And it was because I was managing. I was directing. And to be honest, to this day, I'm still bad at directing and managing and being kind. I remember her being like, dude, stop being mean. And I was like, I'm sorry. But just get the shot. So I ended up finishing the video on the computer, and I uploaded it to YouTube. And I put this music behind it from a Christian rock band called Blindside. The song was called Pitiful. And I picked that because when I was at my cousin's house, they were always listening to Christian rock. And man, I just thought they were so cool, dude. They were so cool. They are so cool still, like I said. And they would always have this. They had Walkmans. This is when we had Walkmans. And they would always be singing. All of them, all of the brothers. There's five brothers and a girl. Andrew, Jacob, Jordan, Aaron, David, and then Bethany was the youngest. And another reason their house means so much to me is because I realize now, looking back, it was the only place that I would go and experience peace and freedom. Because at my house, there was always arguments and very strict rules on everything. And I remember in, I guess it was 2008, whenever Prison Break, the TV show, was airing, I sure as hell wasn't allowed to watch it. And whenever my dad did have it on, he would watch it for like 3 minutes and then change the channel. And I was always like, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? Like, we were just getting into it, then he changed it. And literally now, years later, as a full-grown adult, that's still how he watches TV, with just any show. He'll just watch something and then be like, boop, change. Like, right whenever it's like, you didn't even finish the plot point. You got right up to the moment, like, and the answer, the reveal of who was the villain this whole time, change. Like, what the... Apparently... I don't know what's going on in that brain of his. So they wouldn't let me watch Prison Break. So what I did was, first of all, I learned how to torrent. Download torrents. And you had to learn how to do it because if you didn't do it right, you would download a virus and destroy your computer. Well, I would destroy my parents' computer. But I learned how to not do that. But we had dial-up at my house, so I couldn't download torrents of Prison Break because we had dial-up, and it would literally be 3 kilobits a second. Not even kidding you. But when I went to my cousin's house, they had high-speed internet, which had 90 to 100 kilobits a second. And I would go there every Monday with my mom because my mom would talk to my aunt. Every Monday. They had a routine for whatever it was. I don't even know. Maybe it was deciding how they could punish me in a more evil way every week. Because they did this. They would brainstorm ways of effective punishments for children. It was sadistic. One time they had this group called Growing Kids God's Way, and they all shared and bought these paddles for spanking us that were made out of shoe rubber. And they all passed around these paddles and said, here, spank your kids with this. It stings really, really bad. It hurts way worse than a spoon or a spatula or a stick. And it doesn't leave a bruise. Sadistic. So they could get away with it and we'd have no proof. I couldn't call CPS on them. There was no proof. So, when my mom and her sister were talking every Monday, I would go in the playroom at their house and I would download Prison Break, the next episode of Prison Break. And I would put it on a CD, a blank CD, and I'd bring it home with me and I'd put it in my own computer and I'd secretly watch it at home. But the problem was it was on Monday nights at like 8 p.m. And we would go to my cousin's house during the day on Monday. So I'm like, man, it's on tonight. I'm going to miss the episode. I can't watch it until next Monday when I can download the torrent. It was such a pain in the butt. I was always so bummed that I couldn't. So I had a little 13-inch TV at my house that I had bought with all my saved up money. It was like $113. I bought it from Sam's Club, and I put this antenna on it, and like I said, my dad would never watch any show for more than like 3 minutes a piece. So it wasn't gonna work that way, because what I did was I bought a tiny little camera with like a 50-foot cord, and I attached it to my TV, and I ran the wire secretly through my house up into the living room, in the corner of the living room, so you couldn't see it, so that I could watch TV from my room while my dad was watching TV. And I would try to be watching Prison Break because he would occasionally put it on, but then he'd always ruin it and just change it. So I didn't even want to watch TV with my dad, even if he would let me sit next to him, because no matter what we watched, he would just change it. Like I said, he still does that. So what I did, it was my bedtime at probably 8 p.m., right? So I wasn't allowed to be up. So I put this antenna on my TV, and if I moved it just right, I could actually get reception so that Prison Break would play on my TV. The brand new episode. And the thing is, I couldn't watch it at night though, because is it the werewolf? I couldn't watch it at night though because it was my bedtime, and my parents would come in and check on me, and that would ruin the show. Like, I don't want to have to watch half the show and get cut off. So what I figured out I could do is, on my TV it had a VCR, and I barely got reception, but I did. And so I would put in a VCR tape, and I could start recording, and then I could turn off the TV and it would still record. I don't know how I figured this out, but I did, and this is what I would do. I would record for an hour, the length of the show, onto a VCR tape with the TV off, so when my parents would come and check on me when I'm supposed to be asleep, I would be asleep. And then by 9 p.m. I would get up and turn the TV back on and stop recording. And then the next day when I got home from school, I could watch Prison Break. And I could pause it too. And by the way, Prison Break was one of the first things, TV shows that I ever got like obsessed with. I loved it so much. So that is yet another memory at my cousin's house, that I could just download Prison Break like that in about an hour, because my mom and her sister would hang out for like an hour. And so right when I got there, I'd start downloading it, and it would take about an hour to download, sometimes longer. And I'd be like, she'd be like, all right, time to go. I'm like, wait. It's at 99%. But I can't tell them that I'm downloading a torrent. In that same playroom at my cousin's house was also where I first learned to do the windmill. It's a breakdancing move. I would practice breakdancing. My older cousin Jacob, the Jacob that you know who's in my videos, him and I would hang out sometimes, and he was just the coolest dude. You know, I'm like a little kid, you know, and he was cool enough to hang out with me sometimes as a kid. And I just looked up to him so much. And sometimes he would practice breakdancing with me, or like practice flips or stuff with me, and he would just encourage me. He'd be like, oh, cool. And he made me feel really special because I could do that stuff. And so that just like reiterated it in my mind. I'm like, oh, okay, my identity is in what I can do. That was how I felt. That was how I felt like I belonged without needing acceptance from people. That's not the right word, but that's how I felt like I belonged. That's what I placed my identity in as a kid, is in the skills that I could do. And probably even still, it's in my skills. Some people place it in, what they wear, their car, the stuff they have, maybe acceptance from like a social group, being part of a family, a friend group. There's lots of different things you can place your identity in, but mine happened to be placed in skills that I could learn. And I feel like it got me really, really far in life. Number one, even as a kid, it made me feel like I felt, everywhere I went, I just always felt cooler than everybody. I wouldn't act like it, but I felt like it. Also, at my cousin's house, they would always be praying and singing, and it was quiet there. Man, it was quiet. So I'll find myself thinking about their house even today. Like this week, for some reason, I've been thinking about their house. I actually drove by it the other day, and I looked it up, and I'm like, man, maybe I should buy this house. You know what, maybe I should buy this house, and then I'm going to have all my older cousins come over for my birthday, or just sometime. And then I'm going to be like, all right, guys, hop in. And then I'm going to take them back to their old house. And we're all going to hang out there just like we used to when we were kids. And it's going to be not only fun, because my cousins are the funnest people in the world to talk to, but also nostalgic. And you really can't get better. That's like dopamine stacking. Like, it's the best dopamine stack. Good times, good vibes, plus nostalgia. Oh my God. I mean, that's like equal to like heroin, some kind of drug that makes you feel really good. And there was a big enough gap between their oldest brother and me in terms of age that their oldest brother wasn't really around once I was like old enough to hang out with them. So I would just hear legends of the old brother and how he would they would torture each other. I'm glad I didn't grow up as one of their brothers. I got the best deal. I got to be their little cool cousin. Oh, another core memory for me is that I remember going to sleep in their room with them. I think I was sleeping on the ground or wherever I was, but I remember right before bed, they would always do push-ups and they would do sit-ups, and they'd get as fit as they could. And that, whenever I saw them doing that, I did it with them, obviously. And then I started to obsess over push-ups. I mean, obsess. Because they were impressed. They were really impressed if I could do a lot of push-ups. I remember one day when I was in second grade at school, some speaker came and he said, we're gonna see who can do the most push-ups. And he had all the kids raise their hand and I raised mine and he picked me. And so I went up to the front and I remember doing like 30 push-ups and everyone was like, wow. And it was like more than the older kids. And so anyway, at my cousin's house, when I saw him doing push-ups, I was like, oh my God, like I have to become the greatest. If I could do a lot of push-ups, then everyone will love me. And that was the first time I really started doing push-ups a lot because I saw them working out too. They had a bench press in their pool area. I remember seeing them work out all the time, and I did some amount of weight, and I remember they were so impressed. And I was just like, man, I'm gonna become the greatest. They made me feel so good. Like nobody else ever made me feel. And it's like, I mean, they would just say it was because I was good at what I did. I could do a lot of push-ups. I could do cool things, breakdance. But like, that was also why I started to do these things, is because they thought it was cool. So I've wondered why I think about their house so much as a fully grown adult. And I think it's because it's where a large part of my identity was shaped. On top of all the positive feelings I had when I went there. I can only think of 2 times in my entire life that I went there that I had negative feelings. 3. Number 1, I was really little, and all of them were watching a Gator game with their dad in the living room, and I was so young. I didn't even know what football was. Maybe it was basketball, I don't even know. And I remember hearing them all screaming their heads off in the living room. And I went out there and they were like, the Gators won, the Gators won. And I remember their dad looking at me and saying, are you happy the Gators won? And I was like, I didn't know what to say, so I said, no. I mean, I had to have been like 5, I don't know, something like that. I remember feeling embarrassed. Then another time, the second time that I felt bad was when it could have been when I was staying there for 2 weeks, but I poured a bowl of cereal and one of the older brothers came out and he looked at my bowl of cereal and he was like, why'd you pour so much milk? And he was like really mad at me for pouring too much milk. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Because, as you can guess, growing up with that many kids, you're going to be in like survival mode. Well, it wasn't that bad at my house. My parents never criticized me for using too much milk. Though I was always on a crazy diet, like I had to have rice milk and all this crazy stuff because I had allergies when I was a kid. But so that was the second time that I felt bad at their house. And then the third time would just be whenever I was like frustrated recording my flip video with my youngest cousin, Bethany. She ended up getting the shot. It always works. It always ends up working. kind of figuring this stuff out as I'm talking to you, even right now, because I haven't been clear on why I think about their house randomly. I'll have dreams about their house. You know, I have dreams about their house, and I have this consistent dream where I have this second house that I forget about. Oh yeah, I forgot my second house. And it's in dreamland only, but in my dreamland, it's like I know where it is geographically. It's like kind of close to my parents in Bradenton. But every time in my dream when I go to the house, it's empty. Or most of the time. And then I remember one time I had a dream and I go to the house and there's ghosts all in the house. And now the ghosts weren't scary or bad, but I just remember there being ghosts. I think as I'm growing as a person, parts of my identity are shifting. And so maybe that's why I'm thinking about their house and having this dream of a new house or a second house. You know, this is the kind of stuff that I talk with my very closest friends. So if you're watching this, you're basically one of my closest friends. Look at me, a chatty Cathy tonight. You know, my cousin's dad ended up dying. He wasn't very old, but he was never home at their house. And I think, well, what he died from was cirrhosis of the liver from drinking too much. And my cousin kept his dad's ashes in the back of his car for like months or maybe even a year. And then I think his car got stolen with his dad's ashes in it. Some crazy thing happened. And then they got it returned. And he thinks maybe the kids that stole it just tried to snort his dad. Because, like, apparently he was out of the bag or something. Or the urn. So basically my only interaction with him was when I was 4 and he asked me if I was happy that the Gators won, and I said no. For the most part, I think literally that was like my only interaction with him. My dad was always there. My dad was around for everything. More than I wanted him to be. He was there. Oh, leave me alone. But there's some great memories of my dad too, because I remember I was playing baseball and I got into this slump and I couldn't hit a ball to save my life. And I remember seeing the other kids on the baseball team. This one kid, Mark Christie, his dad would, if he struck out, if he messed up, his dad would berate him and yell at him like actual insanity. And he was one of the coaches. And Mark would be crying every time. And I'm like, you poor kid. Like, me and my dad didn't get along super well, but my dad never did that. My dad loved me. My dad actually loved me. No, but my dad was there for all my baseball games and practices even, I think. And even when I struck out all season, or at least half a season, he never once yelled at me and got mad at me. Never. And he was a part of the team too. Like, he was invested. He was sad that I wasn't, doing well, I'm sure. But he didn't show it. He was like, all right, you'll get him next time. Every time. I'll never forget the day after I had gone through all of that. I mean, I would be crying leaving the plate because I struck out for the 100th time. I remember the looks on my teammates' faces whenever it was my turn to bat. They'd all go, oh, here we go. They all knew I was going to strike out. I was very depressed at the time. I actually told that story about my friends alienating me, and then I got depressed, and then I started striking out all the time. I told that on my channel, and so I'll never forget, after a full season of feeling like an absolute failure, incompetent, incapable, every time I get up to bat, I came back. And I fucking wow! I hit it over the fence. Home run. Out of the park home run. I was 80 pounds. I'll never forget that feeling, running the bases. Ever. And it just so happened to be the one time the coach, right before I got up to the plate, he said, Don Falls, he said, all right, hit it out of the park for me, Charlie. And I did. Wham. Good times. Good times with great peoples. It's very late in the night for me right now. But I kind of don't want to stop talking because I'm just having a good time talking to you guys. You see my hatchet? Can you see that? I don't know if you can. I don't actually throw that hatchet because the head is about to fly off. I never had a hero growing up. All these young men always talk about having heroes. And I never had one. My dad wasn't my hero. I didn't like really look up to anybody except for my cousins, specifically my cousin Jacob. I looked up to all of them, but specifically Jacob. And then years went by, and when I turned 16, the next hero that I ever had was a Frenchman that I saw doing incredibly courageous things online. Remy Gaillard. Not just courageous things, courageous and comedic and creative. I thought, this man is better than everybody. Another person I really looked up to was my friend Luke Davis, who ended up becoming my boss when I did tree work. And the reason is because I saw him being incredibly talented. I remember watching him juggle a soccer ball in my front yard, and I was like, oh my God, wow, he's so good. I've never seen anybody so good. There's that identity again. Identity and abilities. You know, because I grew up in like a Christian culture, very Christian. So like, if you wore like designer things, or you drove a fancy car, like Christians don't really look up to that. Or at least in my little community they didn't. They were just kind of like, they would almost criticize that kind of thing. Now, there's obviously different ways of having identity besides that, but the one that worked best was having abilities. Because I swear, everybody thought I was the coolest dude ever. And they still do. Look, if you're watching this video, you think I'm the coolest guy ever. Like, come on, you gotta. There's no way you're gonna watch a video this dang long and not think that. Or maybe it's like a train wreck or a car wreck. You can't stop watching. You can't look away. But yeah, as a kid, I mean, man, everybody liked me. All the girls liked me. I mean, all the girls were in love with me. At least that's what I thought. I know for sure. I have a couple actual examples of, I remember this girl would follow me around in church and take secret pictures of me with her phone. She had pictures of me, secret pictures that she would take of me. I remember this other girl, when I was in like 4th grade, she would write love notes to me. I was kissing this girl in preschool. I remember my best friend Gus, he lived right next to me, my parents' house, so he had this neighbor, and I remember she wrote this long, basically a love letter to me. I don't know if that's just something that we would do before, like, everybody had smartphones and stuff. And maybe they still do it. But I swear I had a couple girls just, like, write love letters to me when we were not dating. So, such a waste, because at the time I didn't care at all. It's such a waste. Damn it, Ross. I'm thinking about buying my cousin's house. I think that'd be really cool to, or at least reach out to the guy that lives there. And maybe like, I bet I could get him to let us hang out there for a night. Maybe pay him with kisses. See, the fire is hypnotizing. I don't want to stop talking to you guys. I'm having such a good time right now. I don't want to say goodnight. I want to sit here till my eyes get heavy. Till the fire inside dies and expires at 30. Put a curse on authority. In the face of adversity, I'm a soldier. To finish that thought about camping in Florida. I love camping. I'll camp just about anywhere, but I've camped in Florida enough. And this was the final straw this time. Listen, my friend Jacob Arfons invited me to his bachelor party weekend hangout. And we went hiking in Florida again. And I had a heavy backpack on again. And it was nothing but palmetto bushes again. Like, if there was some kind of destination, I remember at one point just literally starting to run, just sprinting. I was jogging with my backpack on, and I left all my friends behind because I was just like, I want to get there. I hate this. I love my friend, but I hate this. I hate what we're doing. Because we went from palmetto bushes at the beginning to palmetto bushes at the end. While it was hot, while we were thirsty and hungry. Compared to in Tennessee, you go hiking and your destination is a beautiful waterfall with cold water, with caves, with mountains, with scenic views. In Florida, nah, you get nothing. So that is when I decided to never go hiking in Florida again. And I have not done it since then. I haven't. And I won't. The only way I would is if there's a very clear destination that looks super cool and is maybe very refreshing. Like if you could hike to a spring that you knew. Like if you would hike to Jenny Springs. Jenny Springs is great. But like you don't hike there, you know? You just pull up in a car. Well, if there was like a spring you hiked to in Florida, I would probably be down with that. Doesn't it feel good to just have no pressure? Just relax. I'm not trying to keep your attention. I'm not focused on retention. I'm just sitting at a fire with you. Just you and me. You know, I might title this Fall Asleep to a Campfire with Ross while he talks you to sleep. And you know what? I might be my #1 fan. Here's what it looks like when you turn it up a little bit. This is usually where I'm chopping wood with the maul. I learned there's a difference with an axe and a maul. It's funny, I used to cut down trees for a living, but I didn't know the difference between an axe and a maul. Which is funny because that's exactly what I was saying the other day, is that people will have a profession and then know almost nothing about it. So I was criticizing myself. I have a video that I'm gonna finish one day here soon where I split these logs from smallest to largest. And I found these logs that split really well, and I cut them all from the same big wood. I used a huge chainsaw, cut them all up. Started with about a foot, then went to 1.5 feet, then 2 foot, then 2.5 feet, then 3 foot. And so I'm starting with the easiest, and then get bigger. You know, it escalates as we go. That's the whole retention type video. And anyway, I would do that right here, but I replaced my cutting log with a fire pit. In the moments that you don't hear me talking, I'm just staring into the fire. I just realized I'm not drinking or smoking. I don't even have a drink. I'm just raw dogging a fire. Let me see if I can get that white werewolf over here. As soon as I whistled, the cricket got louder. Oh. There she blows. The white werewolf. The white werewolf. The other day I was looking for my dog here, Beans, and I couldn't find her anywhere. And I thought she ran away again. But I think she has a new secret hiding spot, and she likes to sleep there. Isn't that right, Beanie? She's so hairy. Anytime she shakes, her hair just flies everywhere. Well, it's about time to turn in. I'm gonna hit the hay. Glad to spend time with you.